today I'm so happy to have Mo. Mo Bunnell is the CEO and founder of Bunnell Idea Group. Now, Mo and I worked together a long time ago at Hewitt Associates, and he was a mentor to me then, an incredible leader, and somebody that I looked up to then and I do now. So, Mo, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh man, I'm so excited. I'll tell you, Trish, your question set, of course we'll get into this, but your question set is so thought-provoking that I found myself spending hours thinking about these really great questions, and that's going to help me forward. So I've already won, and we haven't even started the interview yet.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as my community knows, when they watch these episodes, I've asked Mo to come to this episode with his full self, the full Mo. And maybe if even we just start there, will you just share a little bit about you with the audience?
Yeah, of course. And maybe since I'm being interviewed, we'll start with me and we can talk about family right after that. Is that good?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Trish, have you, I've never asked you this. Have you ever had a dog?
Yes.
You've had a dog. And you ever did your dog ever like to chase a ball at a park, or just have boundless energy chasing a ball or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm that dog. So I don't know what it is, Trish, but a lot of times I'm throwing the ball and chasing the ball in this little metaphor we're using.
Doing the round.
I know, and I do it until I'm exhausted and panting and get up the next day and do it again. But I really, really love, and for whatever reason, am driven by setting a goal. And I didn't think of this till getting ready for this interview, but I love somebody to say no one's ever done that before. Then I really like the goal, and then I just wake up every day and go after it, and I can't help but do that. So that's what's got me to start my own company and then try to have an impact on the world in that way, where I'm just always trying to think of what's the next thing and then how do I go after it.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit more about your family.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons, by the way, to the dog chasing the ball until they tire themselves out and break themselves. We'll talk about that later. Right. But
then you're passed out. But as long as somebody rubs a little bit, while you're passed out.
That's exactly right. So time for dinner and pass out by the TV. So so then the next level out is my wife. So Becky and I have been married 30 years this August. Really excited to celebrate 30 years because there's been highs and there's been lows and all kinds of things like that. But she is amazing. And then we have two daughters, Gabby and Josie. Gabby just graduated from college. She's now running, get this, a puppy cognition research lab at Duke, where they're trying to correlate what early stage experiences do puppies need to have to correlate to success in longer term service dog training. Pretty cool stuff.
Wow.
And then my younger daughter is a sophomore at Georgia State. She just finished this week with her sophomore year, and she's trying to figure out what she's going to do in life. But there's no doubt it'll be some kind of unique. She's drawn to unique things, and there's no doubt she'll find some unique way to help others, probably people with significant headwinds. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but that's the path Josie's going down.
That's awesome. And do you have dogs at home?
Yeah. Well, we have dogs? There's a zoo.
Right.
There's a zoo here. So you can't see about 7 acres of pasture out there, but there's 4 horses. Literally, there is a miniature donkey named Louis Hamilton that's rolling around in a dust pile right now, giving himself a dirt bath. We have a dog, 2 cats, and a green-cheeked conure.
Oh my God.
It's a zoo. We like it.
Mo, I'm also incredibly impressed with the business you created. So will you tell us a little bit about Bunnell Idea Group?
Yeah, that's great. And with the background of the family and the fact that I love chasing goals, this is a perfect time to talk about it. So we were both obviously at Hewitt Associates and loved it. Right, the culture was amazing. And as I finished up taking all the actuarial exams, I moved to a role that we called managing consultant. And that's where I was in charge and had some great mentors. I was in charge for retention and growth at some of our biggest clients and most complex clients worldwide. Long story short, I was really scared when I made that jump from a deep technical professional. I'd spent 10,000 hours or whatever studying to be an actuary. And then in one day, my goals changed, my compensation changed, how I did things changed, who I was working with changed. I even changed floors, titles, business cards, everything. And I had to learn how to do business development. And I went to my boss and said, I actually asked for a manual. And Trish, I wasn't prepared for him. I was used to studying the actuarial exams. So I wasn't ready for him laughing at me out loud, which he chuckled and said, oh, there's no manual, treat the client right. Anyway, through that process of fear of failure, I developed a manual. I started taking notes, trying to find everything I could. I feel like I really struck gold with some peer-reviewed research of why do people say yes to one opportunity, not another? How are deep relationships formed? How do we hack our own habits to drive growth and change in a positive way for everybody involved? And through that process, not only fell in love with business development, but fell in love with teaching others business development.
I have to say, including me, because that is when you and I were together, when you were a managing consultant. And so, okay, keep going. So teaching others started with me too.
Well, and I remember that, I remember our exchanges and how much positive change we drove and how we were giving and all those kind of things. Well, the end of the story is pretty cool. So I left Hewitt 16 plus years ago, started Bunnell Idea Group with the focus of training others how to have a giving, authentic, transparent, win for everybody type of business development growth process. And since then, the manuals that are on the screen now, we have like over 1,000 pages of intellectual property teaching every single skill somebody needs to retain and grow in an authentic and giving and in an abundant way. And we've trained over 25,000 people all around the world: Goldman Sachs, Boston Consulting Group, Willis Towers Watson, big service-based companies, Aetna, TransUnion, Anthem, organizations where a person has 1 foot in delivery of a complex service and 1 foot in growth. And the last thing I'll say is what I've really been thrilled to is our book, The Snowball System. And that's where it won top 5 sales and marketing book by 800 CEO Read. It won #1 networking book at the Axiom Book Awards. It's just impacted a lot of people, and it's given me the scale to help people understand they can build a book of business, drive growth in a way that's a win for everybody.
And that just plays right into everything that we were talking about today.
That's right. I think there's like your question set is so good, Trish, that I don't always think of it that way, but at the underpinnings of everything we do is sort of how to treat people right, how to build community, how to have two-way conversations, agreements that where everybody wins. A lot of the stuff that I think we're going to get into next.
So I said this, I've said this to you before. You have inspired me through the years where I have watched you not just create this enduring professional career, but what you just talked about, this enduring success as it relates to your family. Will you just for a second tell us, what does enduring success mean to you?
Yeah, and I love your question sets, Trish. Well, when I was preparing for this interview, I originally thought of the wrong thing. When on this question, I thought, oh, well, it's leaving a legacy, stuff that people remember you after you're gone. And I realized that that's, at least for me, that's not super important to me. But rather there's something that leads to that. And I think the thing that I thought of as I thought more deeply about this idea of enduring success is it's living a life that you're meant to live. And because I felt like if you do that, then people will remember you. You will have created something people want to follow. You will have a community or content or something that is really lasting because you lived this life that you were meant to lead. And I can go deeper on that if you want. I don't know how fast you want to move, but that's like,
Please go deeper. Okay, please.
Well, I consider Michael Hyatt a friend, and a lot of people hopefully have read Michael's stuff because it's amazing content. And he shared with me something one time that I just thought was brilliant. He said, there's 3 ways you can live your life. The first is drift, the second is driven, and the third is design. Drift first. Drift is where you're busy, you do stuff every day, but at some point you wake up and you're like, this isn't the way it was supposed to be. And that's so easy. I've had time periods in my life where I was clearly drifting, no doubt about it. But boy, if you do that for a really long period of time, that's no bueno. The second one is driven, and that's where one aspect of your life takes over others to their detriment. I've had times in my life where I do that. If we think of the big buckets of life, there's your work, there's fitness, there's family, there's spiritual, there's avocations, your hobbies, your money. Any of those can like take over others to where one's winning, but you're a loss overall because you work too much and your family suffers, or you get so involved with some kind of giving back through spirituality or community that your family or your work suffers, or you get so into triathlons that your work suffers, or whatever. Like any of these can mess up the others. And then that third one is where the magic is, and that's design. And that's where I'm living my best life, for me at least, where I have this really clear vision of where I want to take the next couple of years, about as whatever distance far out you can sort of see. And it's really aggressive goals. But then every day you sort of feel like, because you know where you're going, every day you feel like you're making some progress towards that end. And that's where enduring success is to me, where I'm always living my best when I'm living by design, as opposed to one of those other two.
That's just an awesome way to think about it. And the way that I hear that, it is a journey.
Yeah.
And is it linear and sequential to go through those, that when you went from drift?
I don't think so. I think they're like random. Like, we knew each other at Hewitt. Well, I took the actuarial exams, and that takes like almost a decade back in the day, when they were harder when I took them. These kids now, it's easy. But they're, yeah, they just have to take like 7 of them. But we had to take 24 back in the 80s and 90s. Wow. I mean, come on. But anyway, at the end of that, I was so burnt out from working and studying and almost nothing else. I just needed a couple years where I didn't do as much. Or there's other times where the driven side, something will click and take over, and you don't really realize it. Maybe you say yes to too much at work and your fitness suffers. That's when I was writing the book, The Snowball System, and I gained 25 pounds. I was not in shape because I was sitting there writing all the time and running the business and doing delivery and everything else. So I think the world sort of yanks you harder towards drift and driven. Like people ask you for stuff there, or you need a break or whatever. Like the world will yank you away from the design. And you've got to at least for me, I've got to remind myself and push me back. And it's almost, I'll end with this, Trish. It's almost typically at the lowest points where everything seems to go wrong. That's when, for whatever reason with me, it clicks and I'm like, I need a new plan. This is not working. And I've had several points in my life where everything seemed broken and I had to redefine where I was going and then slowly make that happen, if that makes sense.
It does. And this totally takes me to my next question. Thank you for joining me for our Choose and Become interview series. You could find this episode and others at trishkendall.com. Just go to trishkendall.com/choose-become-interview-series. Or if you have a question or just want to leave a comment, email me, trish@trishkendall.com.